welcome back to another video. Today I wanted to take out my E92 M3, which is behind me, as you'll see. Newly acquired a few months ago. If you haven't seen it already, this is the car, Alpine White 2011 LCI with a DCT, which is actually going to be the topic of my video today. I wanted to take the car out and discuss a hot button topic with this car, which is which gearbox should I get? A lot of people obviously prefer the manual, and before people come after me, yes, I do know the manual is incredible. I've owned plenty of manual sports cars in the past. My first car was actually an E36 M3 with a 5-speed manual that I pretty much daily drove for 5 years. So I am no stranger to a 6-speed manual or 5-speed for this matter. And yeah, I wanted to give my thoughts on the E92 M3 with the DCT. Before this video goes any further, I just want to preface this by saying this is not going to be like some sort of technical video with all the specs and the numbers about the two gearboxes and gear ratios and all that stuff. This is mainly just going to be my thoughts on both gearboxes for this platform. I have been lucky enough to extensively drive both. I used to work for BMW, so I drove quite a few when I was there, and I do have a few friends that own 6-speed manual E92 M3s. But yeah, as you can see, I did go for the dual clutch transmission. And there is a reason behind that, which I'd like to discuss today. So why don't we go for a drive, and I can discuss my thoughts. Now, yes, before I go any further, I do want to preface this by saying the 6-speed manual that comes with the E92 M3 is pretty darn good. I love it, and obviously I have no objections against anyone that goes for that option. I chose the DCT for a reason, and a lot of it comes down to how much you actually drive the car and what you use it for. Now, for me, I wanted to consolidate down into one car. I have owned two cars for quite some time, a daily and a weekend car, but currently just, you know, the maintenance on running two cars at once and the logistics of finding parking for both, I just wanted to consolidate down to one for at least a little while. And yes, I did go for one with a big hunking V8 that sucks through fuel, but I wanted to have some sort of fun car that could be used for a mundane commuter car, but also take it out for drives like this and really enjoy it. So that's what I did. I found this E92 in Texas, and I bought it sight unseen and drove it home. Now, as I stated in one of my previous videos, the PDK from Porsche is actually one of my favorite gearboxes of all time. Getting behind the wheel of my friend's 997.2 Carrera S was actually, you know, one of the first times where I experienced what a proper automatic gearbox can do for a driving experience. And it's completely different from what you get out of a manual transmission. And it was a pleasant surprise. Up until that point, I had obviously driven plenty of automatic cars with, you know, boring torque converters and stuff like that. But driving a Carrera S, especially a 997.2 with a PDK, and driving it hard through back roads, I was like, wow, you know, this is good. Of course, BMW's DCT, especially in this car, because if we're comparing 997.2, this is honestly one of the competitors to that car at the time. It's a very similar transmission, and it does a lot of the same things that you'd get out of a PDK in this platform. And I thought it was a really nice package, all bundled up into one. One of the things I really love about the DCT in this car is the adjustability. You know, a manual gearbox is wonderful, and I'll always love a manual, but you know, a manual is a manual. That's what it is. You have a clutch pedal and you have a gear selector. With this, you have the best of both worlds minus the clutch pedal, right? So if I'm just commuting to work and I'm not in the mood for, you know, the loud engine, you know, revving up high and all that, you know, I can just pop it over into auto mode. The car goes into an auto and just takes over. It'll actually lower the gear shift intensity, which is those 5 bars next to drive. So you can actually filter through those levels and decide how intense you want the shifts to be. And the nice thing is, as soon as I pop it into manual mode, which it's in now, I have it programmed to immediately go up to the highest intensity for shifts with traction control on. There is actually a hidden level 6 for gear shifts, which becomes available when you turn off traction control, but 9 times out of 10 I will be driving with traction control on. So yeah, like I said, with the DCT you get really the best of both worlds. Minus the clutch pedal, you have the comfort of automatic, comfortable shifting gears when the car does it itself. Sitting in traffic, you don't have to worry about anything. But then when you're on some back roads or on the highway and you want to drop down a few gears and quickly find that torque band up top, you can pop it in manual mode. Shifts get lightning fast, way more intense, and it does the job. And before anyone comes after me, yes, I do love a manual gearbox. I have driven plenty of manual cars in my day. I will always love a manual gearbox, but I think there's really something to be said about the dual clutch that's in this car. It's one of those things, really, you don't knock it until you try it. It's way more engaging than someone might think, and it provides a totally different driving experience from the manual version. And I think it's a positive difference. They're both great gearboxes, and they're both great platforms in their own right, but stock for stock, I do think that the DCT does take the cake. The manual is great, but it is engaging, but it could be improved in some ways, which plenty of people do improve. There's ways to get around that. But in terms of stock for stock, I think the DCT is a great gearbox and a great option for someone that's looking for an engaging automatic. And as my friend Tedward, I don't know if he's watching this or not, as he has said in his Save the Manuals video, automatic cars have come a long way. He highlighted, the early days of automated manual gearboxes were pretty bad. Things like the F1 gearbox from Ferrari. But since the technology's advanced and it's been more widely available for lower tier cars than the supercars of the era, it's become a lot more efficient, a lot better at doing what it set out to do, and it provides a really engaging experience. And don't get me wrong, I am all for Save the Manuals, that huge movement, so to speak, that's going on in the car community, where people that are terrified of the manual, going extinct in the next week. It's not going to happen. But the other thing is, saving the manuals doesn't mean me going out and buying a used 2011 E92 M3 with a 6-speed manual gearbox. If you want to save the manuals, you got to buy the brand new cars from the manufacturers when they offer a manual transmission to show that there's still demand for them. Me going out and buying a used sports car with a manual gearbox is not going to save the manuals. Those will always be there. They've already been made. A car that I would love to own right now is a GR Corolla. Not going to buy one because I just purchased this car, but that is a serious contender that could seriously show, manufacturers in the US market that there's a demand for a manual gearbox. It's really cool to see Toyota making those performance-oriented manual gearboxes once again. They offer it in the Supra now too, which is great. Brands like BMW, brands like Porsche, still offering a manual gearbox. But yeah, if you want to save the manuals, you got to buy those cars, not the ones that you find on Marketplace that were from 2013 or whatever. And like I said, I do enjoy a manual gearbox that is in this car, that is offered on this car. But I think when you look at competitors and, the cars that they put out at the time to be stacked up against this and their manual gearbox options, this pales in comparison. It's an okay gearbox, it's a good gearbox, but it could definitely be better. And that's why I really think the dual clutch option for this car really shines. It stands out because it's well done. It is exactly what it should be. I think the dual clutch really, shows its own when you get onto back roads like this, where you can pop it into its manual mode and drive it how it was meant to be driven. I'm still having fun, even though I'm not, clutch in, manually moving this gear selector in the middle. And that's okay. The whole stigma around automatic cars being, shitty or girly, so to speak, is complete and utter bogus. And I think that a lot of that has to do with the fact that for a long time, automatics were not good. But the fact of the matter is, now they are good, and there are options out there for you to purchase that either if you don't know how to drive manual, or if you just want to break from it, or you want to try something different, you can still have a fun and engaging experience. And I think that's awesome. When you look at things like, for example, the E36 M3 or the E46 M3, no questions asked, the manual is the better option. That came at a time when automatic gearboxes were still really bad. And the counterpart for the automatic option is a horrendous driving experience. I mean, I've heard of some people liking the SMG that comes in the E46 if you opt for it, but I've driven it many times and I think it's just a horrendous gearbox. It's just not for me. And the E36, it's even worse. And especially for the US market, I mean, the E36 is so similar, so to speak, on paper as a non-M E36 that you really need a manual gearbox to liven it up and set it apart at least a bit. But that's a different story for another day. Today, I wanted to focus on this gearbox in this car and driving it how it was meant to be driven, which is hard. Another thing you do not get with a manual is these DCT downshifts. Sure, you can practice your rev matching and get good at it, but there's just something about this DCT and those downshifts. See if you can get a better listen with the windows down. Another thing you can get with a DCT that you might not be able to get with a manual gearbox is in its automatic chill mode, you can get improved fuel efficiency, which is doable in a manual gearbox, but you have to actively think about it and think what you're doing, right? When you pop it into automatic mode and you're not, in the sports setting, when it's all turned up in the MDM and all that, the car is working for fuel efficiency, and it makes a notable difference on long drives. So yeah, I think that's going to wrap up my video for today. Of course, there are pros and cons to both gearboxes, and you can have your own preference, of course. But I thought I'd just come on here today and talk about my thoughts on it and why I chose the platform that I did. I hope you enjoyed the video. I will be trying to post weekly on this channel. If you could subscribe, that would be great. And thanks for watching.